Meeting to order. It's a meeting of Orangeville Town Council for Monday, September 12th, 2022. Could we start off with an approval of the agenda? There's a motion, please. Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Post. All in favor?
Yes.
Disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest. I have one, which I've given in writing to the clerk. This is regarding items 12.6 and 19.5. My son is the owner of that property that is coming before council. I'll be recusing myself. Those two items come up. Could we have a motion to move into close, please? Councillor Sherwood, second by Councillor Peters. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. We will see you at the other link, folks. Thank you. Order again, the meeting of Orangeville Town Council for Monday, September the 12th. We had an earlier closed session, and we did already approve the agenda. We'd like to open up with the singing of our national anthem, please. Ms. Parmentier. Not hearing any audio. Ms. Parmentier, we're not hearing any audio.
Testing. We have our sound. I'm sorry, hold on for a second. I'll start again.
Thank you.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, David Nairn, Artistic Director of Theatre Orangeville. For those joining at 7 o'clock, I did want to declare a indirect pecuniary interest on items 12.6 and 19.5, as my son is an owner in that planning application for 41 William Street. I'd like to go into our land acknowledgement, please. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and are streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Please remain muted until the chair requests comments or questions from the public. It is with great sorrow that we acknowledge the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away on Thursday, September the 8th. On behalf of Council and the residents of Orangeville, I'd like to express our sincere condolences to the royal family of the loss of their mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. At this time of sadness, we reflect on her 70-year reign over the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, which she led with incredible grace and dignity. Please join me in a 1 minute of silence to honor Her Majesty the Queen. To honor the Queen's passing, the flags at Town Hall and our town buildings and parks have been lowered and will remain at half-mast until after her funeral. I invite the residents of Orangeville to visit Town Hall this week to sign our Book of Condolences that sits in the lobby. Following the Queen's funeral, the Book of Condolences will be sent to the royal family on behalf of the town of Orangeville. Secondly, on Monday, September 19th at 10:30 a.m., the Orangeville Legion will be hosting a wreath-laying ceremony to honor the life of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth at the Orangeville Cenotaph in Alexandra Park. That ceremony will also stream from Orangeville's Facebook page for those who cannot attend in person. Earlier tonight, we had a closed session, and I'm going to rise and report the items as follows. That the 2022 August the 8th closed council meeting minutes be approved, and that the confidential report CPS 2022-066, the Joint Compliance Audit Committee, be received, and that the terms of reference for the Dufferin County Municipalities Joint Compliance Audit Committee attached to Schedule 1 for the 2022-2026 term of council be received, and that council pass a bylaw establishing a Joint Compliance Audit Committee for the 2022-2026 term of council, appointing David Thwaites, Greg Prokopchuk, and Randy Chambers. And that a confidential report CAO 2022-009 nominations for Orangeville Hydro Limited Board of Directors be received, and that member Adrian Mays be removed from the Orangeville Hydro Limited Board of Directors on or before October 27th, 2022. Just want to thank Adrian for his many years of service to Orangeville Hydro and in other capacities within the community. And that council, following the recommendations of the selection committee, nominate Robert Long and Susanna Karras to serve on the Orangeville Hydro Board of Directors for a 3-year term until October 2025. And the council requests that Orangeville Hydro Limited call a shareholders meeting by October 27, 2022 to implement the Board of Director appointments. And the council direct proxy vote being Mayor Brown and Deputy Mayor McIntosh in absence of the mayor in favor of the approved nominees on behalf of the corporation of the town of Orangeville at the shareholders meeting to be held to remove and appoint members to the Orangeville Hydro Board of Directors. And the council requests Orangeville Hydro Board of Directors develop and provide to the shareholders a Board of Directors skills matrix updated annually to aid in board succession planning. And the confidential report INS 2022-058 from R. Andrew Bigger, Town Solicitor, and Brandon Ward, Manager of Planning, regarding Sarah Properties, non-decision appeal update and recommendations be received, and that staff and town council proceed as directed, and that the confidential verbal report from Raymond Osmond, Acting CAO, public office holders be received, and that Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign an amendment to the Acting CAO employment contract for Raymond Osmond. And the confidential verbal report from Raymond Osmond, Acting CAO, regarding public office holders be received, and that the confidential verbal report from Raymond Osmond, Acting CAO, regarding Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks be received. We have a motion to approve all of that. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Thank you, Council. Okay, moving on to item 10 on our agenda. This is the adoption of minutes of previous council meetings. We have 10.1, which is the July 13th, 22 council public meeting minutes. 10.2, August the 8th, 2022 council meeting minutes, and 10.3 is the August 11th, 2022 special council meeting minutes. Can we have a motion, please, on it? Councillor Sherwood, second by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Any comments or corrections there, Council? No, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item 11, presentations, petitions, and delegations. Welcoming under 11.1 Richard Croft of TSN Towing and Nuns Towing regarding the towing services and vehicle storage yard facility bylaw. Richard, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I want to start off by saying thank you to the town staff and council members for their hard work in this. I've had a chance to review everything, and everything looks really good compared to what we've had in the past and what we were working with. So I just want to say thanks for the time. It's really appreciated by many of us. Just a few things I just want to touch on before the final passing tonight. I just want to make it clear on when it comes to one section of the rates where it says the storage rate of $60. I just want to make sure it's clear and put in there that it's for light duty vehicles. Because obviously the bigger vehicles, medium duty and heavier duty for some of the companies, it takes more room, more storage. And I just don't want that to be limited on there because I know insurance companies will fight that. So I just want to make sure that's clear because the bylaw is kind of written around the 6,000 pounds or less. So I want to make sure that's clarified on the sheet there. I also want to address to see if you guys can do what Caledon did, because I noticed they did a lot what Caledon did with their updates. A lot was followed. So I was wondering if they could also look at their rate sheet, the way that they've sent it out, so that there's a section for cleanup on there for some of the bigger jobs, like I described last meeting, which I don't know if Andy remembers. We discussed in that meeting how he would understand what I mean about larger cleanups for like highways and stuff, where it's like, you know, larger scenes of debris fields and stuff where we would have to clean up. I just want to make sure that that's added in there too, to make sure it's just in the description, because that way it can be charged for appropriately when needed. And when it comes to licensing the drivers and trucks, even though some of the most of the bylaw is geared around the 6,000 pound ratio, I think licensing should be for all vehicles that service the area, even though the pricing rates and stuff don't really apply to them. I think the rules and regulations should. So I think plating vehicles of all classes and all sizes for service for towing would be the way to go. So like your heavy duty, your medium duty, and your light duty. I think they should fall under the same rules and follow the same program that every other service truck will be providing. And that's all I wanted to really add. Other than that, I think it looked great. They did a wonderful job.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard. Any council members wish to comment here before we move on to, yeah, Councilor Taylor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Croft. Richard, I was just curious what your thoughts were on the portion where it talks about the list, and there's a bit of a disconnect between what the OPP would do and what we would do, and it's points out in this document further clarity is required, which I agree with, and I'm curious how you feel about that, and you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an issue you anticipate that being?
Well, to be quite honest, OPP have kind of the control when it comes to like the legislated towing part of things. So like the impounds for like speeding, impaired, they basically have the call on this, which is currently a list system, right? I think it needs to be touched up, that system. When it comes to collisions, it's a really hard call because the way the Highway Traffic Act is, you can't really put that on a rotation. But customer request would obviously overrule everything. Does that answer what you're kind of getting at?
Well, sort of. I think what I'm hearing from you is that you have minimal concern over that, and that's kind of what I wanted to hear. So if that's the case, then good. Let's move on.
Yeah, I just want to see a fair system put in place that's going to work for everybody, as well as the customer, the community, and the industry, obviously.
And sorry, Your Worship, through you, what you're indicating is that's the case.
Correct. So
Perfect. That's all I wanted to know. So I appreciate that.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll move on now. Thank you, Richard, for your thoughts and these additions. We'll certainly be discussing them shortly. We're moving on to item 12, which is 12.1, the staff report regarding towing services and the vehicle storage yard facility bylaw, CPS 2022-065. Recommendation, option 1, that this report, the towing services and vehicle storage yard facility bylaw, be received. And then option 2, that this report be received and that council pass a bylaw to regulate and license towing services and vehicle storage yard facilities. Before we have a motion on either one of those options, wondering if Terry Cunningham, do you have any comments, or do you wish to weigh in on this? I know you were involved in it, or Madam Clerk, any further thoughts from the town staff side?
At this time, Your Worship, I have no further comments. If there's any questions that anybody would like to ask of staff, please feel free to do so.
Just wondering what your thoughts were about Richard Croft's comments. For instance, the storage rate of $60 per day for light duty vehicles, and perhaps amending that rate chart to a higher level for heavier duty vehicles that may be towed.
Just through to you, Your Worship, the rates sheet that we provided in the package to council, it does set out that the vehicles, these rates are applicable to vehicles not exceeding 2,750 kilograms or 6,000 pounds. So the rates that are on this sheet are applicable. And I believe, as Richard mentioned, that would be like a light duty vehicle. So these rates aren't applicable to the larger vehicles.
They are not applicable.
No,
Okay.
no, they're specific to light duty vehicles.
Do we want to nail down a number or just leave it open for the heavier duty vehicles?
Your Worship, maybe Karen Landry would like to weigh in on that as well. And she's worked closely with that, and just she can provide comments on that as well.
Ms. Landry.
Good evening, everyone. What I can advise is that currently the way the bylaw is structured is that the individual towing service operators would be required to submit to the town their rates for any vehicle for medium and heavy duty vehicles. So the rates they submit to us is what they would be able to charge. We only are indicating what the rate is for the light duty vehicle.
So that would be at the time of licensing?
Yes, it would. Yes.
Okay. The other two items that he brought up were cleanup of debris fields in the case of a highway accident. Again, any consideration for that, Ms. Cunningham?
If council so chooses that they want to have such a rate incorporated into the proposed towing rates, that would be at the discretion of council. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to ask Ms. Landry to weigh in again here. In your research, do you recall whether a number had been put out there, Ms. Landry, regarding this type of extra curricular cleanup that might occur? And I see Deputy Mayor's weighing in here as well. So Ms. Landry first, and then we'll have Deputy Mayor.
So based on the delegation that we had, he's indicated that Caledon has provided such a rate. I would actually have to go back and look at whether we saw such a rate included in the other bylaws. I'm not recalling anything in that regard, but Carrie might be able to advise further. But certainly, if council so chooses, if they decide that they want to proceed with the adoption of the bylaw as it is presented to before you this evening, staff could always follow up as it related to incorporating a fee as it relates to the larger cleanups.
Right. Deputy Mayor, did you wish to speak to this item or this particular topic, or did you have something else?
No, it was this particular topic. I agree with Richard 100%. He needs to have an option to be able to charge more than the flat rate. As long as we can go ahead and work on that after the bylaw, that's great. But I do agree, there's some cleanups can take hours and even days. So there definitely needs to be an additional, maybe so much an hour or so much every half hour above and beyond what's listed on the bylaw. Thank you.
Ms. Landry, what would your recommendation be? Is this something that you can take back and do a little bit more research on and then bring back to council to amend this bylaw if we pass it tonight?
Yes, so what you could do, because I don't know if Carrie was able to find out, just looking up whether we had a lot of detailed information with respect to what the appropriate rate would be for larger type cleanups, because I'm not aware of us encountering that in the bylaws that we reviewed, and I think she's kind of agreeing with me with her nod there. So I would suggest then, if council decides that they're going to support moving the bylaw forward this evening, that you just add on to your motion this evening, and that staff conduct further research as it relates to that particular rate and report back to council. And then if council, once we provide that information to council, it would be in council's discretion as to whether they wanted to incorporate that into the bylaw by way of an amendment.
Makes sense. Okay, great. Thank you. And then the one further item was licensing of all types of vehicles. I presume that may be moot because, as you said earlier, an application is going to come in. And so if it's for a larger vehicle, you're going to consider that. Correct, Carrie? He was talking about licensing of heavy, medium, and light duty vehicles.
Yes. So
Yep.
I'll just confirm with Karen Landry. My understanding is that the bylaw, we are dealing with the light duty vehicles, licensing the light duty vehicles.
That is correct.
Light duty tow trucks.
Yes.
Right.
Not the heavy and the medium duty. They're not incorporated into this bylaw.
But there are some of those vehicles in Dufferin County and certainly in Orangeville. Should we be?
That would be at the discretion of council.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just in that regard, in terms of what we've been working on over, I guess probably it's been over the last year, the bylaws that we have worked with and have included as part of our review have been limited to what you have before you this evening. If council would like us to, again, I think I would recommend, if council is wanting us to look further into this as it relates to that particular request, that again, you might want to add that to the motion, and that would be something that staff would report back on.
Well, knowing Mr. Croft and knowing he's been in this business for, I think 20 years or more, I would certainly think that his comments are probably well taken for us to consider. So maybe council, if we would consider approving this bylaw tonight with and directing staff to come back with storage rates for vehicles that are heavier than light duty vehicles, for a rate for cleaning up debris fields, and perhaps a rate for larger wrecker type of tow trucks. And then staff can come back at a later date. But my personal feeling is this has been percolating now for 2 or 3 years. I think we need to move this bylaw tonight because I think all the other municipalities in Dufferin County have been waiting for us. And once we approve this, then there'll be a cascading effect through the rest of Dufferin County and get everybody on board. Councillor Andrews, go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. And just pertaining to this particular item that has been spoken about, and again, not to put any pressure on the clerk and or staff, from a timing perspective, when do you think that this information might be available for council? At our next council meeting or at a future council meeting for a future council?
Madam Clerk, or perhaps?
Sure.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So the timing around that, it would, It would not be for the next council meeting, and so it would be coming back in the new term of council. Councilors.
Thank
Very
you, Madam
good.
Clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Miss Cunningham. I was under the agreement that this was going to be like a joint bylaw that all municipalities were in Dufferin County would kind of follow. And I see in your report that only 3 have considered joining in. So we know that most of the major accidents that happen end up like being out on the highways that could be Grand Valley, could be Mono, could not necessarily in town. What is that going to do if everybody hasn't opted in on this for the OPP? They got to sit there and think, oh, where are we located, and does the bylaw apply in this geographical area or not? Like, I'm a little confused as to why this isn't a Dufferin County-wide initiative when I thought that's what we were trying to accomplish here.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Sherwood. My understanding, Karen Landry had reached out to the various municipalities. When this was originally initiated, I believe that the Dufferin OPP were hoping that, or looking for a county-wide towing services bylaw. And through this whole process, we have reached out to the municipalities and updated them on the process. And this is the feedback now that has been received. 3 are not interested, and we're waiting to hear back from 2 others, and there's 2 that aren't interested. So yes, it could be difficult when it comes to borders and that, but anything initiated towing within the town of Orangeville, this bylaw would be applicable within the town of Orangeville limits. So yes, it would be difficult, you know, if there's tows being picked up in other municipalities that aren't enacting a similar bylaw. It just wouldn't be applicable.
Yeah, it just seems a little difficult for the Dufferin OPP. I feel sorry for them, actually, if they have to sit there and think, okay, where are we geographically? It's sad that they didn't all come on board. That's quite disappointing, actually, to hear that. But thank you for trying anyway.
So Deputy Mayor, maybe you and I can remember at the next and probably final Dufferin County meeting to mention this in new business, and maybe try and encourage our other mayors and deputy mayors to consider this. You know, the history of this was that before our group came into our term, Dufferin County had declared the towing bylaw as being not within their jurisdiction and canceled it. They got a legal opinion on this, and so this is why it was sent down to the lower tier. I'm with you, Councillor Sherwood. I wish we had, you know, complete agreement with all with everybody. So anyway, let's hope that that the other municipalities, once they see the bylaw and have a chance to review it and realize all the work that went into it, and that plagiarism in government isn't a bad thing, especially if all the hard work that Ms. Landry and Ms. Cunningham and others have done on this, that they'll adopt a similar bylaw. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Taylor.
I believe, Your Worship, that Ms. Landry was wanting to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Landry, go ahead.
It's okay, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. I just wanted to just add on to that, just for council's awareness, that we actually did. I received a call today from Melanchthon, just advising that their interest, they may now have an interest, and they are open to having further discussions on the matter. So that's changed since the writing of the report. And I realize that Councillor Taylor is, I believe, next on the list, but we also did send this particular report and the draft bylaw to the chairs of the respective police services boards. So I think perhaps maybe after there's some discussion at some of these police services boards, and as you indicated, Mr. Mayor, perhaps at the county level, there may be a change in terms of the of interest from the respective municipalities. So I just wanted to provide you with that information.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Taylor, go ahead.
In the spirit of being nice, as we've been this term, I think the deputy mayor was ahead of me.
I don't know. I got you on here. It looks like you're.
Oh, yeah? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
take it then. Sure. I just wanted to follow up with what you were saying, Your Worship. And then you're absolutely right. The county turned it down. And then a little bit more history on that was as we transitioned from OPS to OPP, OPES used to have their own system, and there was a list that was called from. And really, once that transition happened, the tow operators start to say, hey, we need to have something. And, you know, the municipalities were a little bit slow to get something going. And so the OPP were kind enough to put something in place in absence of anything. So there wasn't anything going on. And as it gets to this piece, just full cards on the table, I wanted to hear that information from Mr. Croft, because I thought that that's really, in my mind, the last piece is, you know, are these guys happy with that, with the way this is set up in terms of the business? And so now I'm just matter of fact about it. If we're going to come back with something later on and make it a little bit better, I think that's great. But I'm perfectly content to pass this evening, and I think it's important that we do so. And the reality is, leaving it for another council, I just worry that it'll languish, or people won't understand why it's important, or it won't hit their priority list. And I think we all grasp why it should go forward, and let's get something done here this evening. So anyway, thank you for that.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I was one of the people involved in the original towing bylaw way back when it was with the county. And for some obscure legal reason, the county had to do away with the bylaw. I don't remember what it was, but it couldn't at the time be a county bylaw. It had to be a municipal bylaw. I'm not sure why, but I believe there was some obscure reason.
Yeah, they got a legal opinion, as it was explained to me.
They did.
Yeah,
they did.
All right, Council. Well, I think we've come to the end of the discussion. It seems like option 2 is where we would like to head with this, and that is adopt this bylaw tonight with the additional proviso of the comments from Mr. Croft being investigated, being brought back to a future council, the new council. So can we have a motion on that, please? Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Post. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, staff. I know you did an awful lot of work on this, and we all appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on to 12.2. This is a delegation of authority, and that report CPS 2021-066 delegation of authority be received. And the council pass a delegated authority bylaw to delegate certain powers and duties to employees. Could we have a motion on this, please? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Peters. Council, any questions of staff on this? Seeing none. All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 12.3, Tourism Relief Fund Agreement, CMS 2022-025. Recommendation that this report, the Tourism Relief Fund Agreement, be received, and the council authorize a bylaw to enter into and execute a Zone 6 Regional Tourism Organization Agreement with the Zone 6 Regional Tourism Organization, Central Counties Tourism, for participation in the Tourism Relief Fund. Could we have a motion on this, please? Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Sherwood. Any discussion or comments? No. Well, just thank you to staff for negotiating this with Central Counties, and it's going to benefit us clearly. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to 12.4, franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas, INS 2022-046. Recommendation that this report, the franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas, be received, and the council approves the form of draft bylaw and franchise agreement attached hereto, and authorizes the submission thereof to the Ontario Energy Board for approval pursuant to the provisions of Section 9 of the Municipal Franchises Act. And the council requests that the Ontario Energy Board make an order declaring and directing that the assent of the municipal electors to the attached draft bylaw and franchise agreement pertaining to the corporation of the town of Orangeville is not necessary pursuant to the provision of section 9-4 of the Municipal Franchises Act. May I have a motion on this, please? Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Post. Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I read this with a lot of intrigue, as the last time this particular item came about was back in, I guess, 2003. I'm not sure if anyone on staff might be able to answer this question, but there was a point there, I guess, on page 9 of that particular item regarding the decommissioning of the lines themselves, the gas lines. I'd just be curious to find out, what type of other utility could end up using if that was the case, that they were decommissioned. Mr. Koselleck?
Through the chair, typically when they decommission the utilities, they will remove them from the right of way. In this case, it outlines as part of the agreement the cost sharing for the works, but it could be other utilities. I don't know if they could pull a cable through some of the gas lines or that to use it as a conduit, but it depends on the area where they are abandoning it. Typically, they'd be abandoning it when we're doing a road project, if we're putting a bridge in instead of an at-grade crossing. So typically they don't abandon active areas because there is services in the area for residents.
Well, thank you, Mr. Koselleck, for that detailed reply. Appreciate it.
All right, any further comments, council? No, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to 12.5, Townwide Urban Design Guidelines, Decision Recommendation INS 2022-054. The recommendation is a report INS 2022-054, Townwide Urban Design Guidelines, Decision Recommendation be received, and the council approve attachment number 1 to this report and entitled Design Guidelines, Town of Orangeville Community Improvement Plan as prepared by MHBC Planning, dated August 2022, and that staff be directed to implement the approved design guidelines when processing, planning, and development applications and community improvement plan programs. Could we have a motion on this, please? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Any comments? Councillor Andrews, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you again, Your Worship. Again, a lot of information and very impressed by the documentation. I know that the Sierra firm and staff that have been involved, this really ends up providing a very clear outline for any activity regarding development and, of course, the community improvement plan. And I also like to take the time just to thank, I believe, Councillor Peters for his work on this. I know that he ended up providing some guidance, if I'm not mistaken. And again, thank you, Councillor Peters, for your work on this. There was one question I had, and this is, again, probably more for clarification on page 186. As Your Worship may recall, when we had the connection with Roger Brooks and the reference to blade signs, I really thought that there might be just, it might be nomenclature, it could have been just the way it was worded in the document, but does it refer to blade signs also being recommended as part of the way to identify businesses in the downtown core? I'm not sure which staff member would be able to provide an answer to that.
Mr. Koselleck? Any thoughts there?
May I let Mr. Ward?
Mr. Ward, go ahead, sir.
Your Worship, if I could, and through you to Councillor Andrews, I believe blade signs, projecting signs from buildings are addressed in the guideline document. I'd have to look more carefully. I don't have the exact reference in front of me at this time, but I'd have to look more carefully to determine where they're cited in there. But I believe that concept is referred to in the guidelines.
Yeah, okay. I was just referencing what I read there, and I again may have been mistaken on what I saw, but I don't think that it wasn't specific, but it was referencing different types of signage and the way it should be implemented in the downtown core. But thank you,
Councillor Peters. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Peters, go ahead.
Thanks. Through you, I just wanted to take a moment to thank staff for allowing us to delay this item slightly to bring in more feedback, and I think the document is improved, and hopefully the town and the future development is improved as well.
Great. All right. Any further comments or questions, council? Okay. All in favor of 12.5? Thank you. All right, at this moment, I have to recuse myself and step away from the meeting. I'm going to turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship.
If somebody could text me when I would come back. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have item 12.6, 41 William Street. It's a consent agreement execution, file number B-01/21 INS 2022-055. We have a recommendation that report INS -2022-055 41 William Street consent agreement execution, file number B-01/21 be received, and the council passed a bylaw to include as attachment number 1 to this report to authorize the execution of a consent agreement in substantially the same form as attached to the bylaw to implement the Ontario Land Tribunal's condition of approval for this consent application. Any questions from council? But first of all, I guess we need a motion. Do we have a motion for this? Councillor Peters, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Taylor, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I'm confused on the entire piece here as I read through it. To me, the Committee of Adjustment turned this away. I know there's a recommendation in place here. As I read through it, I don't really understand, from my perspective, why I would vote in favor of that recommendation. It seems odd, but I gotta admit, I feel like I'm walking on water a little bit here, and I could use some further clarification on what exactly it is that we're trying to say in this situation. So I guess, you know, through you to Mr. Ward, is there a way to dial this down a little bit? And what is the synopsis here?
Mr. Ward, go right ahead.
Sure, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Taylor. This recommendation is really an implementer to an Ontario Land Tribunal decision to approve the consent application. As council may recall, this matter, by way of background, it was a committee application. It was refused by the committee. The applicant then appealed that refusal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. It was eventually consolidated with a similar application for a zoning bylaw amendment, which was also went forward to council. It was not approved, and its lack of approval was also appealed to the tribunal. The matters were consolidated into one event. The tribunal heard the matter and approved both the applications, and in its approval of the consent application, it imposed certain conditions to be fulfilled in order for the lot severance to obtain final approval and to legally create the lot. One of those conditions was the execution of an agreement with the owner to carry out certain obligations in order to develop the lot. In order to execute that agreement, we require council authorization for the mayor and clerk to execute that agreement by way of a bylaw being passed. So that's essentially the product of this report, is recommending that bylaw be passed in order for the consent agreement to be executed.
Any further questions, Mr. Taylor?
I guess from my perspective, I have a reluctance to pass it. It feels like a strange thing to do. It feels like it keeps coming back around. Council said no at one point. Committee of Adjustment said no. I know we're back here again, but it feels to me like I'm being pushed down a road again by a developer, and I don't like that feeling. I don't think the neighborhood's going to enjoy that. I mean, my view on this property hasn't changed, and I don't know. Guys, maybe it's too late in the term and I've just lost my ability to grasp things, but I just don't understand why I would grant this, why I would vote in favor of such a thing. It's an odd maneuver in the middle of that neighborhood again. I don't get it.
Mr. Ward, through to you. What this looks like to me is they're taking this out of our hands once again, that it's being approved. If we were to vote against this, what would be the repercussions?
To you, Deputy Mayor, I would suggest that the matter would have to be taken back to the tribunal. Essentially, the town would not be following through with implementing the direction that the tribunal has given. The tribunal has approved this and approved it conditionally, subject to the town fulfilling, or the developer fulfilling certain obligations, one of which is executing an agreement to that effect. And again, this report is simply an enabler. It's seeking direction or authorization to allow that to happen. Again, all consistent with the direction given by the tribunal for this matter.
Thank you. So once again, it's being taken out of our hands, basically.
Essentially, the decision-making authority for this matter had been. As with any decision, there are certain rights of appeal, whether it's an approval decision or a lack thereof. There's always opportunity for that decision to be appealed by an entity that is in disagreement with that decision. And when that happens, it does move the decision-making authority into the realm of the tribunal.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship, and referencing both Councillor Taylor's comments as well as yours. Mr. Ward, would you say that the merry-go-round could continue if we end up, of course, not approving this, goes back to the tribunal and then comes back and then goes back and forth until obviously an outcome is positive for whomever?
Again, to you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Andrews, if this were not to be endorsed, I think there would be a bit of a struggle as to understand where we go forward from here. This is a simple fulfillment of a condition approved by the tribunal through its approval of the application, and for the town to, I guess, not abide by that decision, I presume it would be referred to the tribunal, and it would likely result in some further appearance before council to advise of next steps and further discussion on the matter.
And could I also assume that there would be additional costs to the town too as well?
Again, through you, Deputy Mayor, I presume there would. As with any tribunal proceeding, there's town solicitor involvement and staff involvement in the matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, through you. I think my point was along the lines of where Councillor Andrews just went. I think the bulk of the decision making has already been made, and to spend more time and money and resources on this last 10% of the decision, I don't think it's going to get us anywhere. It seems like a waste. So, we were told before that this did not stand a good chance if it went to LT. Obviously, that has come to fruition. So I think we should just put it through and see what happens next.
Thank you. Councillor Post.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm struggling with this one a little bit too, because I know that what we've hit now is just kind of that last rubber stamp piece. I think my frustration or maybe my lack of willingness to vote in favor is from a consistency of decision-making standpoint for me personally. And throughout the whole process, and this has been a process for this development, I've kind of remained steadfast in my opposition to it. I will be voting against this recommendation today, and it will be to stay consistent with the decisions and the conversations that I've had about this development right from the very first time that it was brought to council, and I'm going to continue to stick with that thought process now. So I will not be supporting this right now. I do understand that this is a final stamp piece of approval, but the residents in this area are still very frustrated by kind of the process that this has taken. They feel like their voices weren't heard, and we're kind of still in that piece right now. So I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor Post. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So again, I think you could probably put my comments here as being irrational. But in the same vein as Councillor Post, I just feel like I need to be consistent. I don't want to break and vote for this project. It sounds like, as I piece the conversation together here, that council will pass this. I do recognize the implications of what I'm doing by voting against that, and that means that there could be legal costs to the town. But based on principle in that area, I've never thought this development should be there. So I'm going to vote no as well.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Peters.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. I think it's a mistake to vote against this because of the potential costs and delays and staff time. I think these decisions can be treated independently. We had our chance to discuss the development in principle. That's now gone. And for that reason, I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from council? If not, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Those against? Councillor Taylor and Councillor Post against. Thank you. If somebody could call his worship.
I'm calling him in. If you just give me 1 minute.
We can do that. The floor is yours, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right, moving along in our agenda, we have a number of items of correspondence under item 13, including recommendations for council consideration of approving proclamations for Children's Grief Awareness Day on November 17th and the Economic Abuse Awareness Day on November 26th. So maybe we can start off with a motion to approve those two proclamations that have not been put before council before. Councillor Andrews, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments? All in favor? And could we have a motion to receive items 13.1 through 13.6, please? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Sherwood. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Taylor, go ahead. Did you want to comment, sir?
Sorry, I'm on mute there. I just want to say, like, when these things come in, I think it's a great thing that's done, that there's participation, and it's helpful to us when there is participation, and it's nice to get those thoughts. So I just wanted to call it out and say it's a positive thing. And lots of times we sit in these chairs and we don't hear anything. So a letter I disagree with or a letter I agree with, it's irrelevant. I'm just glad to hear the comments.
Exactly. Thank you. All right, all in favor? Thank you. Item 14 is a recommendation that the minutes of the following meetings be received. That is the minutes of the Orangeville Public Library Board for May 25th, 2022, and the minutes of the Official Plan Steering Committee of July 14th, 2022. Could we have a motion to receive those minutes, please? Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor Post, all in favor? Any notices of motion at the meeting? Any new business? I got three things. I just want to remind everybody about the Dream Dufferin event, which Dufferin Board of Trade is putting on Wednesday, September 14th. The afternoon and evening of Wednesday at the Tony Rose Arena. We have about 28 exhibitors who will be in the banquet hall, in the lobby of Tony Rose, and out in the parking lot. Dream Dufferin is to encourage young people and those looking for second careers to move into the skilled trades. There are a number of vendors there who will be talking about opportunities in the skilled trades, and also non-traditional careers for women as well. And we have Jamie McMillan as a keynote speaker at 1:30 and again at 7 p.m. Jamie's website is Kick-Ass Careers. She's an iron worker, She works 30 stories up in office buildings, putting steel together. But she's also a very inspirational speaker about the skilled trades, and she'll be giving 2 presentations on Wednesday. It's free. Encourage students and parents to come. Some of the hurdles that young people have when getting into skilled trades are their parents. You know, all the skilled trade workers that I know are doing very well financially for themselves. They like what they're doing. There's a sense of satisfaction in working with your hands, and so encourage those who are thinking about that kind of career to attend. Also, we have on September 17th the Tour to Headwaters. This is a cycling event in support of Headwaters Hospital Foundation. And on the 18th, this Sunday, FTP is running their Heidi's Walk for Hope. Again, fundraiser, a walk at Island Lake. If anybody's interested, you can find out more at Tour to Headwaters or FTP's websites. Councillor Peters, go ahead, and then Councillor Andrews. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe Councillor Andrews is first.
I'm sorry, Councillor Andrews.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you, Councillor Peters. Thank you. Your Worship, as you know, we've got a very busy community, and in addition to, of course, what you've mentioned, just as a side note, I wanted to thank you for being on that committee for Dream Dufferin. My background in post-secondary, one of the things that always needed to be addressed continuously with conversations I had with parents over the years was in fact the viability and importance of a career in the trades, and you eloquently identified that it is a wonderful career path, and I do encourage many people to attend that coming up on Wednesday. Couple of things very quickly. We do have a hockey game that is coming up. This will be benefiting, I'm hoping, the food bank with donations. This is on September the 25th, where we have an exhibition game, OHL exhibition game at the Alder Street Complex, where we have, if I'm not mistaken, the Kitchener Rangers and the Mississauga Steelheads that will be playing a game there, and I think more information is coming to the community. We haven't met, as I think all of us know, at least in council, since our last meeting in August, and around mid-August, myself, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Post, represented the town of Orangeville along with a couple of our staff at the AMO conference, which is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Your Worship was also representing at the county level. I thought Orangeville did itself proud with the dialogue and the representation. The compliments I know that many of us that were there, that the town has received from many other municipalities who are aware of what is going on here was incredibly positive from my perspective, but it was very rewarding also to represent our community at that level. And again, I want to thank my colleagues for attending. Really enjoyed the dialogue and the opportunity to meet with some of the key ministers as well, which we're certainly hoping that maybe some benefits will be coming back to the community at some point. So that's all I have at this time, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. And I did, thank you for bringing up AMO. Sarah McRae, who's the climate coordinator for Dufferin County, was on one of the panels in Ottawa, and she acquitted herself very well on that panel. So congratulations to Sarah as well. And we did have some positive commentary about our decision to move ahead with the free transit pilot for the next couple of years. There was some conversations, and a newspaper article came out of that as well. So again, thank you to those who attended. It's a very interesting conference, and lots of ideas exchanged. Councillor Peters, go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Just one item. It's a few weeks out yet, but the date for tree planting has been set this fall. It'll be Saturday, the 22nd, and more details to come, but that'll be in the morning. So looking to get a big crowd out there, and hopefully we have good weather.
Right. And yeah, go ahead, Councillor Sherwood.
I was just going to ask Councillor Peters, where is it going to be?
I have the location, but not at the tip of my tongue. It might be at Rebecca Hills Park. There was some discussion about it being there, but
okay, we'll see a news release, right? So
definitely.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
And the other thing, I just before we close this meeting off, was the The Walk Off the Earth concert is this Saturday. It's going to be an exciting time. I know there's been some questions about how the tickets were distributed. My understanding is there were 1,300 tickets that were distributed very quickly, and there's still another 400 tickets out. I've reached out to staff. Hopefully we can get some further information in the next day or two on that. Hopefully some more residents of the town of Orangeville will be able to be in attendance, because I know there was, we reached out to, of course, Sirius and to Live Nation, and their response on sales locally were that it was a province-wide promotion that they were doing, and they felt they needed to leave the ticket sales open to everyone in Ontario, and hence that's why I guess some of the tickets have been acquired for those outside of the Orangeville area. But nevertheless, it's going to be an awesome event. I'm sure there's going to be great video available after the event, and hopefully we can share some of the excitement in the future through our communication channels. Yes, Councillor Sherwood?
Are we permitted to live stream that on our Facebook page?
Well, it's funny when you get into the big musical acts, there's licensing issues and what have you. So I don't know. I think I'm remiss here because I should have asked staff to give us an update at today's meeting. It's too late for that now, and apologize, but maybe we can share that out in the next day or two. We'll get an update from Sharon Doherty or other staff members who are involved directly in that. And also one other thing is the BIA is kicking in on the Santa Claus Parade organization. Gary Skin has been named. We know Gary is helping run the Orangeville Farmers Market. He's a competent fellow and is going to help with the Santa Claus Parade and the BIA's involvement. They're looking for volunteers to help. And if you feel you're able to on that day, you'd be welcome to help out with that event. I think that's it for any new business. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody online for question period, or Ms. Pormancherry?
Through your worship, there's no one currently on the line.
Very good. So as previously mentioned, I have to recuse myself from 19.5, but perhaps we can have a motion to approve bylaws 19.1, 19.2, 19.3, 19.4, 19.6, and 19.7. And then I will recuse myself for that other vote. Councillor Post, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Thank you. And I will step away. Over to you, Deputy Mayor, and it is item number 19.5 regarding bylaw regarding 41 William. I will step away.
Thank you, Your Worship. 19.5, a bylaw to authorize a consent agreement with Duncan Shaw, 41 William Street. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Peters, Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Post and Taylor opposed. Motion passes. Thank you.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
It's automatically mutes when you come on there, sorry. So last item, of course, is adjournment. Can we have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Thanks, folks. Have a good night.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Great night.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone. Take care.